Good morning.
I think we can get started, guys. What do you think?
So hi all, we'll get it started. Yeah, Pallavi, would you?
Yes, yeah. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the today's training session on the topic UiPath document understanding. My name is Pallavi, and I'm working as a senior RPA developer in XT Global Hyderabad. And yeah, it's actually great to see so many of you are eager to learn and enhance your skills. So today's training will focus on an exciting and powerful feature of UiPath document understanding. This feature allows you to automate the extraction, interpretation, and processing of different document types. And yeah, so whether you're dealing with invoices, forms, or contracts, any kind of documents, UiPath understanding streamlines your process very effectively with extraction. And yeah, with this, I'll now hand over it to my partner, Sanjana. Yeah, Sanjana, please take over.
Thank you, Pallavi. Hi all, this is Sanjana. I'm currently working in JP Morgan Chase & Co. I have 7 years of experience in IT and it's completely in UiPath. So as Pallavi mentioned, today we'll gonna discuss more about UiPath document understanding. And we have our speakers, Lehru and Monica. So now I hand over it to Lehru. So he will deep dive in UiPath document understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjana. I think it should be Monica who is starting. So over to you, Monica.
My pleasure. I'll share my screen and you let me know once you see it.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Can you see it now?
Yes, Monica.
Awesome. So hello everyone. Today I want to talk to you about document understanding. I want to give you a brief overview of the product as well as what we've been up to lately so that you can better leverage our features in your automations. So I'm going to give you an overview about what it means to build custom extraction and classification models for processing your documents as well as consuming them. I'm going to talk about limitations so that you can understand when to use what. And then Lahir is going to talk more about the practice. So he's going to talk about the customer use case, templates, learning curve, and many other topics which you may ask about. And finally, you can ask us anything because we're here to support you in your automation journey. And yeah, given the complexity of today's environment we're all in, I'd suggest you ask us anything you have on your mind, depending on the customer requirements you face. So let's get started. I want to provide you an overview for building and consuming models. The entire product is basically constructed around two parts. There is the building part, in which at design times we define the skills which are required for processing the documents. This can be done in one of multiple ways. We have been having for a while now the intelligent OCR and ML packages in Studio, allowing you to define, for example, template-based extraction models using the form extractor or regex extractor based on regex and so on. AI center projects in which you basically define an ML model able to classify or extract information from documents, and also classic document understanding projects. You can consume these via the intelligent OCR package. This has been the story since I think 2022. And then lately, we've been adding some new components to document understanding to foster for usability so that you guys can easier adopt the product. In this sense, we've introduced the modern projects in document understanding for building your document processing models for both classification and extraction. And for consuming these, we allow you to.
Hi, Monica. Sorry to interrupt you. So, can you please speak little louder? We are getting the comments that they're not able to audible. Can you please?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Is this any better
Good
now?
job. Yeah, thank you.
Is this any better now? Can you hear me better?
Yes, better. Thank you.
Cool, happy to hear. So I was saying that we've recently introduced a new way of building document understanding skills for both classification and extraction in modern projects in document understanding. Now, building is not enough because a skill is only as good as you may leverage it in your automation. So we also provide two new means of consuming these. One, a new activity spec called Document Understanding Activities, which works cross-platform in Studio and Studio Web in Windows and cross-platform projects, and Cloud API so that you can basically perform API calls for processing your documents. And I want to talk about the newer experiences, and then I'll also demo these to you. Have you already heard of our active learning feature? Are you already familiar with that? Have you already heard about our modern projects? Yes, no? Okay, I will take this as a no, so I'll go into details. With the active learning feature, we provide you a means to define so-called modern document understanding projects. This new experience allows you to train, deploy, and monitor models in a one user interface in document understanding. It has various components. First, the build components in which you load samples, you annotate documents, and then you train your model in a guided experience. Then the measure part in which you can understand your model's performance as well as how to improve it. You have a publish section where you can create new project versions as well as start automating those either via APIs or in RPA workflows. And then finally, after running your automation, you have a monitor component where you can monitor and audit the process documents so you understand what happens in your production environment or basically what happens at runtime. All these components are available with the modern projects, and I'll demo them to you. Now, I was telling about building models is not enough. You also need to consume these models. And you do this either via the new document understanding cross-platform activities or cloud APIs. You can as well do these with the intelligent OCR activities, but I'm presenting these to you because they are newer and you may not already be familiar with them. So basically, we provide the same capabilities, framework capabilities for you to process documents. We allow you to read all text from a document, also known as digitize, classify a document, extract the fields from it, and finally validate the classification and extraction result for it. These can be achieved in, as mentioned, intelligent OCR activities, the new DO activities, and cloud APIs. I want to show you how you can build document processing automations with the modern experience as well as how to consume these in Studio Web. Let me let me quickly set up my environment. Basically, I want to show you how you would go like if you wanted to create a net new document understanding project in the modern experience, as well as how you can then consume it. You would basically go under document understanding, you would go under document understanding, and then here you have this option to create project or create automation. When you click on create automation, you just create an automation based on a pre-trained model and the document you provide the sample input. When you click on create project, you have this option to create a classic project or a modern project. I was telling you about how this modern project is a new experience, which you can leverage for creating classification or extraction models, and I'll call it. Oh, sorry, I was a click monkey. Sorry. I'll be creating a new modern project for Hyderabad, and then when I click on creating it, I see here this build interface. I see here the 4 components I mentioned about. The first thing I have to do is upload some sample documents to start building a project. And I click to browse, and I already have here some test data, and I just upload the test data to my project. Notice how I upload the files. I have here the status of the files, and they are processing. What happens is that in the background, we try to classify the documents to some of our pre-trained models, which support various document types. I can as well add a custom document type from here. I can add it starting from scratch, or I can leverage a base model out of the over 40 ones which we already have available. And then while the documents are uploaded, as mentioned, they are as well classified. I can browse through them. If I'm not happy with the classification, I can move them to another document type. I already have here some recommended actions. For example, I see here that my classification is actually poor. Certain document types have too few samples for accurate extraction. I am guided through my experience, and I know exactly what I have to do to improve my model. Similarly for extraction. I also have here a project score which reflects the performance of my project. As soon as I go over the recommended action and I keep improving my model, this project score would also increase. I'll get back to that a little later. Once I've uploaded the documents, I can as well see here that the training has not started yet, but the documents are available. Training has not started because I haven't really labeled my documents, or they're not enough to build a classification model. The next step for me would be to either upload some more documents or to set up an extraction model. What I would do is go on a document, for example, this ID card, and click on annotate. When I click on annotate, I have here this new labeling experience. My fields are already pre-annotated for me. I can see, for example, the sex of the person from the ID card, the birth date, sample name, last name. Maybe I want to assign it this value, and so on. Once I'm happy with the extraction, I just click confirm, and then I move over to my next document. Similarly, if I'm happy with the extraction, I just click confirm and so on. And basically this is how I would go over all my annotation. And this is how I will be building my extraction model. Once I go over all the labeling, I can go here to this measure tab. This measure tab would give me more insights with regards to how my skills are performing. I see here various recommendations as previously. I can see here details about my data set, and I also have here some metrics with regards to precision, accuracy, recall, and so on. To build a successful project, of course, I have to go over labeling, I have to upload documents and provide the models enough data. Once I'm happy with my project, I can go here to publish and create a project version. I could create the models to work with and then start automating. I don't want to label all the stuff with you guys right now, but I already have something pre-created. I have this customer support project with some warranty documents, which are enough for me to have an excellent document type, which with a couple of receipts for which training has not started because they are sold too little, and a couple of invoices. I'm happy enough with my model, so here in the published version, I can create the project version, let's call it that, for example, and here I can select the models I want to work with. Let's say I want all three. And then I can create this, and then I can deploy it. And then once I have it deployed, I have two options for consuming it. I can integrate it via APIs. As I was mentioning, we have our document understanding cloud APIs, which allow you to consume the skills for extraction or classification via REST API calls. Here I have some sample code snippets in Python, Java, C# or Node, in which basically what happens is that I authenticate and then I perform a digitization call, and then I retrieve my extractors and extract the data based on what's available in my project version. If, however, because we're all RPA developers, we want to continue our journey with RPA, I click here to open in Studio Web. Studio Web, yes, correct. But I also have here the option to open in Studio Desktop. Now I'm running a Mac, that's why for me this is not available, but I know that it's your favorite IDE, so you'd be able to leverage this option too. What happens is that an automation is created in which we retrieve some of the sample documents you previously uploaded in the build phase. We iterate over them, attempt to classify them using the deployed classifier, and extract information with the newly created models. While this automation loads, I want to stop for some questions. Do you already have some questions? What did you think about what I've shown you so far? Am I still audible? Because you're awfully quiet.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Hiro. Okay, then, if there are no questions, I'll just move on. I want to show you the sample workflow I've created. Starting from this workflow, you can customize and basically implement the customer requirements you have. What I have here is, as mentioned, retrieving the sample files from an orchestrator folder. And for each file, I classify the document using the classifier I've just created. And then if I found, for example, an invoice, I extract the data using the version of the extractor I just deployed. I create a validation task, and then if not, I process warranty documents similarly using the extractor I've just deployed, and then validate the extractor of them. I will run the automation just for you to see how it works, but I think you got the point. Basically, whatever I've previously built and deployed, and just consuming here. And I can see here the processing updates. I can see here that the shipping invoice is being processed. And then I don't know why this timed that, but basically you get the point. I would be able to classify and then extract information from my documents. This would be basically the new modern experience I want to show you. We believe it is very user-friendly. We believe you can easily train your own model without data science skill, and then you can also easily consume it in automation due to our new activities. However, we also have certain limitations in place because the new experience has not caught up with the old experience yet. And I'm going to show you what these are. While we do have modern projects which offer the most advanced and user-friendly deal experience, we also miss some of the features and we are working currently to address them. With modern projects, the advantages, I guess, are clear. It's faster model development time, guided model training experience, and we also have no infra cost, no AI center, and no manual deployment for multiple instances. However, we currently don't support dev to prod tenant migration. We work on addressing or we work on having modern projects in automation suite, and we also work on adding auto fine tuning and splitting. We have planned, but currently not in progress, to add business rules. You may already be familiar with classic projects and AI center-based projects, so I won't go into many details here, but if you have questions, I'm happy to take them. We also have the various type of projects compatible with various activities pack. Actually, my slide here is wrong. So modern projects work with document understanding activities and intelligent OCR activities and are also available with the APIs. For consuming the models, similarly, I've shown you certain activities in Studio Web out of the new document understanding activities package. However, we're still catching up on functionality and we still don't have all features which are currently available in intelligent OCR. While the new activities provide an ease of adoption and are seamlessly integrated with modern projects, as I've shown, I just click on a button and then I have the workflow. And they work with a single input-output object, which is document data. They don't yet have a template in place. This is currently in progress with me, professional services, and Lahiro. We don't yet support splitting. We don't yet support training, but all these are in progress, similarly to prod dev tenant support and on-prem automation suite support. We have planned, but not yet in progress, the support for multiple extraction methods per document type, similarly as the data extraction scope supports in intelligent OCR, as well as business rules. As I mentioned on the previous slide as well, you may already be familiar with intelligent OCR, so I won't go into details here. And then the cloud APIs similarly allow you to consume modern projects, but the disadvantages here is that you need to code in some programming language to consume these REST APIs, and they don't provide access to other platform capabilities. Do you have questions for me so far?
Monica, we have some questions in the chat, but we will take at the later part of the session.
Okay, that's fine. Then I just wanted to make sure you understand that all these limitations I wanted to highlight, which you would need to be aware of when deciding on a customer implementation. For example, if you need to implement something now and require splitting, you won't be able to use the new activities, for example. Note that they are in progress and we are addressing them. I've talked a lot about the theory or what the product supports and does not support. Now I want Lahiri to tell you more about the practice. He's been taking modern projects, our new activity pack, GenAI activities, and others, and used them in customer use cases, used them to produce a template, can talk more about the learning curve, going to prod, and other questions you may have with regards to this. Lahiro, would you mind discussing more about the practice?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so thank you, Monica, for the introduction. Yeah, so before getting into the technical stuff, I have a few things to show, especially the DU template and some of these modern activities. But before getting there, I'll just try to take you through some of the use cases that we have been doing. So when it comes to document processing, as you know by now, we can process multiple document types in a single process. So some use cases can be very straightforward. Some use cases can be complicated depending on the requirement and the documents that you are processing. Usually, when it comes to document processing, some of the common challenges that we come across is the document itself, because sometimes the document can be computer generated, sometimes it can be scanned, or even an image, like a photo that you take from your phone. So with all these different variations, and not just that, it can also include handwritten information. um, just imagine what how the things can get complicated from a very simple process. We need to address all these variations, all these different documents that you get, and try to extract the data from these documents. So these things can be very straightforward in some use cases, but there are scenarios where it can get complicated. So I'll tell you one simple example that I had to do a couple of months ago. Um, so this use case was into purchase order processing. So basically, they get all this information through an internal system, and these documents will get saved in a specific drive. These purchase orders can have different layouts depending on the person or the company who sends it, and we needed to have a mechanism to read and understand these documents and extract certain information and update in an internal system. So what we did was, first of all, before getting into this process, we analyzed what kind of documents we are getting. So it's purchase orders. Then we analyzed how many layouts we are going to deal with. Uh, And then we also checked whether these documents are computer generated or scanned. So these are some of the important things that we need to understand at the very beginning, because depending on these things, the tools that you are going to use or the different activities that you're going to use can be different, and the effort that you need to put in can be different. So this
Hi,
one was a
Lahiru,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you.
yes.
Are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm just explaining a use
Okay.
case at the
Okay.
moment. Yeah,
Fine. Yeah.
yeah. So for this one, uh, the layouts were very simple, and it was more like a one-page document. So we used the machine learning models. So basically, when it comes to UiPath document understanding, there are different machine learning models that you could use. So there are. Let me share my screen now. There are different ways where you can actually try this. Okay, so there are different ways where you can access these models. I hope you can see my screen. I'm just creating a demo project in AI Center to show you something. So as Monica mentioned, we can access this DU capabilities through AI Center, or, or the document understanding service over here, or even through the modern activities. Um, So right now we are going to look at the AI Center, and in this one, if you go to ML packages and out of the box packages, if you go to UiPath document understanding, here you can find the different out of the box models that's available for various different document types. So these are pre-trained, and you can use them and test how good these are. So in our case, we used the purchase order model that we have here. I think it should be somewhere here. Yeah, this one. Because it's a pre-trained one, so we just used it along with our classic activities, the intelligent OCR activities, to easily read the data. So that was a simple use case. But so you didn't have to do a lot of training. You just used the out of the box one and got everything processed. But now there can be scenarios where um, you get very specific documents that are specific to your use case and to your company. And in this case, you will need to train some of these models. So one approach is use the active learning because that is the latest capability and it is much faster compared to the AI center version of that. But still, it can, you might need to look at some of these things. Basically, when you're starting a project, see what are the out of the box models available, can you reuse any of those things, or whether you need to train a model from scratch. So even if you use the active learning, or even if you use the AI center models, you can even train this on your own models, on your own data or the documents. So if you have your own document type and none of these out of the box models support them, you can use this one, this document understanding, because this is more of a generic model that you can use and um, train it on your own data. So just like how Monica showed, it's slightly different when it comes to AI Center, but the leveling is something that you have to do. I'm not going to go into all the details because we have a limited time, but this is something that you can remember to see how you can do the leveling. Um, Now I'll tell you another complicated one. So another use case was, this is not really into machine learning, but it's into processing different types of documents. One of these, um, let's say child welfare organizations, when it comes to child adoption, they had a lot of documents that they need to process to adopt a child. So these documents can range from 300 to 400 pages and sometimes even more. And each PDF file will have like 80, 90 different document types. That's how they send it. And these documents are sent by so many different people, so we don't even know who is sending them. So if you're thinking that, okay, why not can we split this into multiple files? We cannot do that because different people do it and we really don't know who is really sending them. So, however it is sent to us, we had to find a way to identify these different document types. So that's where the classification, the different classification methods we have in UiPath, I'll show you some of those things, can actually help. Um, so there are like in the classic one, there are three different classification types, and in the modern one, you have the machine learning capabilities to do that. So again, those are some complicated scenarios that you may need to deal with when you're processing documents. That is why it is important to understand how and when to use these capabilities. So that's a little bit of an introduction uh, for this document understanding template. Um, so depending on the use case, you may have to look into different options in document understanding, whether you want to use classification or is it just extraction, or even when it comes to extraction, how do you want to do the extraction using machine learning or templates. So let's see how and when to use them. So we have a DU template for the intelligent OCR activities that's already in place. So this can actually simplify your DU workflow development because most of the things are already done for you. If you see here, um, there are two main workflows. One is the action center, the other one is the attended version. Now, why do we have two? The reason for this is the document understanding process can sometimes run as an attended workflow on your machine itself, and sometimes you may run it in a server behind the scenes. So you just get the data from any application, and this runs in the background and gets the data extracted for you. So that's why this template support both versions. There is a slight difference in the two, but if you look at in very high level, I'm showing you the action center version to process in unattended mode. Just look at the steps. You have the read config file just like any other template. Initializing, get transaction data from a queue, digitize, classify, classification rules, validation, processing each identified document type, and end. In high level, these are the steps. And now look at the main attended version. We have something extra here. I'll get back to this. Just look at the flow for now. You have the same set of steps. I'll explain all of these things, and it's pretty much the same. The only difference in attended and unattended is if it's running as attended, you need to have a way to pass the document path to this workflow, and that is why we have this option. So in this if condition, um, there is a activity that allows you to select the document type, document path during runtime. Just like a pop-up where you get a screen to select a document or to select a folder, something similar to that. So that's the only difference. Other than that, the flow is exactly the same. In unattended, you don't have it because that's coming from a queue. Now, to understand this flow better, let me explain some of these things. So in the read config file, this is all about reading the configuration file that is stored in this data folder, this config. I'll explain a bit on this. So in general, there are few sheets available. Settings sheet include all these file paths or the folder paths where you can store your exported data, training information, and where you can find the classifier JSON file, the endpoints, and few other settings. These things are used during your validation process. Constants are pretty much, you don't do anything here. Most of these are log messages that can happen, so don't worry too much about the information of this. And these assets, if you look at them, these are generally the assets that you will be using in your configuration um, to show, basically to store where the API key is and what is the API key, whether you want to manually validate all the time or whether you want to skip classification and extraction training steps, and the action catalog folder path, storage buckets, because if you're using Action Center to validate the information, you need to save this information in a storage bucket. So all that information is captured here. But if you want to use assets, you have the same set of fields here in this section. So you can decide whether you're going to use assets or whether you're going to stick with the config file and just use the settings sheet. And invoice and receipts processing, I'll get back to this one as I explain the flow. Okay, so that is the configuration part, and initializing is all about just initializing your flow. Let me try to open this. So in this one, it's again reading the assets sheets and getting everything into a configuration dictionary. This is very similar to what you see in the RE framework. If you're familiar with that, it's pretty much the same thing. And once you do that, we just check whether you're using a queue, and this is coming from the input arguments. So there are two input arguments. One is a target file, a file path. If you don't want to use a queue, you can pass the file path here, and an indication whether you're going to use a queue or not. The get transaction item is just a simple workflow where you just get the transaction data from the queue item, and then digitizing. This is where you use the digitized document activity to convert the information into a machine readable format. You can use any OCR engine that's available. By default, you will have the UiPath document OCR, and if you want to use any other, that is also available in your activities. Basically, this will give you two outputs, the document text and the document object model. The text will contain all the text available in the document, including your handwritten information, and the DOM document object model will have other additional information that you need to know, like the positions and everything of this text that you are extracting. This can be helpful when you're doing the extraction and also the classification. Then when it comes to classification, this is the one that I wanted to show. Um, in here, we use the classify document scope, and by default, you have the intelligent keyword classifier. Now, as Monica explained, we were talking about document splitting. So in the classic activities, you have three, I mentioned that you have three different classifiers. So we have keyword-based classifier, intelligent keyword classifier, and the machine learning classifier. What is the difference? Keyword-based classifier is the very basic one. This is where you can specify your own keywords. For example, it may look something like this. So I need to create a JSON file because all this information is actually stored in a JSON file. So let me go to the folder path of this solution. And if I go to document understanding, here you can see the intelligent keyword classifier JSON file. Let me just take a copy of this and I'll just update it. Um, just to show you how this works. So I'm going to open this and clear the content inside before connecting it with this one. Okay. Okay. So now I can use this with the keyword classifier. Now you can see these are the document types that this framework support by default. And if you want to add a keyword, let's say for invoice, if you say that I always need to look for the keyword invoice, you can add it. And that will be one of the keywords. But the only limitation with this is this cannot do the splitting. If you have to use splitting, even though your document type and the keywords can be simple, you have to go for intelligent keyword classifier. This is the only classifier that supports the document splitting as of now. The other difference with this activity is I need to show the file path. You don't need to specify keywords here. It can learn. All you have to do is upload documents by clicking on this import, and it will automatically identify the keywords that it wants to use. Now you can see that all this information is already specified here. So where is this information coming from? Certificate of billing, invoices, receipts. These are actually coming from a taxonomy manager. So on your top ribbon, you can see the taxonomy manager. From where is this coming from? This is not there in all the studio sessions. This is actually coming as a part of this intelligent OCR activities. So for the classic ones, you have the intelligent OCR activities and the document understanding ML activities if you are using the machine learning capabilities. The moment you add this, you will get this one. So this is one good place where you can actually configure your document types. For some reason, I'm getting an exception when I try to open it. Sorry for that. Probably I did some updates, so something is broken. It's fine. So let's try without the taxonomy manager for now. Yeah, but that is the place where you need to. Sorry, I'm getting some error messages. Yeah, so that is the place where you can define all these document types and the fields for each document that you are going to extract and the document, the data type for those fields. So this is where you can do the classification. And there is another classifier, which is the machine learning classifier for more complicated and for pretty much unstructured documents. You can easily use that one. But for that, it needs to have a model in the AI Center. Now, in AI Center, you have a model called document classification. This one. You can train this for different document types. By default, this is trained for the out-of-the-box types, and you can make use of that. So this is the classification, and the rule check is more towards identifying whether the extracted classification result is correct or not. And rules right now for classification, you can use the confidence, but if you have any specific logic, you can write your own code inside this workflow. And if you're going to do the manual validation, you can create your action task and wait and resume activities over here. So this will take you to Action Center. It will create an action over there for manual validation. This is the case for unattended flow, but if you're using the attended flow, you will see a slightly different set of activities for validation. Instead of create action, you will see the present classification station. This is more like the desktop version of the Action Center because it's attended and it's running on the user machine. Um, yeah, so once you do that, the other thing that you need to remember is if you have multiple document types in a document, in that case, the classification will give you multiple results, saying your first page is an invoice, second page is a purchase order, and likewise. So even if it is one file, you need to look through those document types that got identified and do the extraction separately for each of those types. Because each document type has its own version of fields and ways of extracting. You may need to even use different extractors depending on the document type. And that's why we have this parallel for each. What happens here is if you have like 3 to 4 different document types, this guy can actually execute all of them parallel. You don't need to go in a sequential order. And inside this one, you have a simple flowchart that can actually take care of the data extraction. So if I open this one, again, when it comes to intelligent OCR activities, we have different extraction methods. One is the regex extraction, the other one is the form extraction, and the machine learning extractor. So form extractor is mostly used for template-based documents where the layout is pretty much the same for all the variations of that particular document type, for example, W9. But if it's a document that is like an invoice or a purchase order, where all invoices can have different layouts, that's where you need to have some machine learning capabilities that can actually help identify the fields wherever it is in the document. So that's why you need to have machine learning capabilities, maybe through active learning or maybe through AI Center, wherever you train it, you can make use of those things through these activities. So for the classic activities, remember one thing, we need to always stick with the AI center models. But if you are using the modern activities, you can use the models that you create from active learning capability, because the classic one always connects with the AI center. So these are the different methods, and that's why I told you about those use cases where you need to really understand. And these are more like the best practices that we follow during any document understanding projects, whether it's simple or complicated or whatever. Because depending on your document types, depending on your findings, you need to decide which extractor to use, when to use, whether you're going to use the modern one or the classic version. So you can decide depending on these things. So if you have like more structured documents and if you don't want to use machine learning, go for the classic activities because you have the form extractor and the regex extractor that can support your extraction methods. But if you have machine like different document layouts like purchase orders, invoices that can have its own variations, you can use machine learning and then you can decide whether you are going to use the classic or the modern. So how to select if you want to use the um, machine learning capabilities? Should I use modern or should I use classic? And again, that depends on those capabilities that Monica showed as of now. So all this stuff, the capabilities that modern activities offer, the capabilities that the classic activities offer. So you can just do an analysis on this and decide which one to select, depending on what you want to do. But the modern ones are much easier compared to the classic activities because you don't have to do all these digitizing, creating the taxonomy, all those things. It's eliminated and it's very much simple in the modern version. So basically, these are some of the things that you need to look into. And I'll just try to cover one more thing before moving into the modern part. And I also mentioned about this validation steps, about invoice processing. So here in the classic version, when you do the data extraction, this also applies for the modern, by the way. Whatever the approach, when you do a data extraction, you need to find ways to validate your information. Are you going to rely on the confidence level? No, that is not the best approach because sometimes the confidence level can be high and your extracted data might be incomplete or even wrong. It can happen. It's not that confidence is always high means your data is correct. It's not like that. So the confidence level is more like the last resort, but you can do a lot more things based on your extracted data to validate whether this information is correct or wrong. What are the approaches? So if you use invoices, for example, I took that because I can easily show that through this Excel. So in the invoices, what are the fields we have? We can we have this numeric fields like the total amount, the line amounts, the total line amount, tax amount, all this information, right? So you can use this information and you will be anyway extracting this. So use that extracted info to perform some calculations to see whether the extracted data is correct or wrong. For example, in an invoice, if you look at the line items, you can have the quantity, unit price, and the line amount. So if you want to check whether the line amount is correct, you can do a calculation with the quantity and unit price. That should give you the same line amount. If you do that calculation, and you can check whether this is the same or is different. Likewise, you can perform different cross validations on your extracted data to check whether you have extracted the correct information. And if there are any um, differences, you can maybe connect it with the external system through API if there is a way to validate it through another application, or else you can send it to Action Center or the validation station to get your user to validate. So that is why the cross validation is important, and this is something that we sometimes we don't do, but it's really important to have this information and have that flow in your workflows. In the document understanding template, it's by default done for invoices and receipts. So that information you can find in this extraction rule check. Due to the time constraints, I'm not going to go into all this information. I'll let you explore. But the flow, you can just go through it and see if that helps. Maybe you can also change it for your use cases. But for other document types, you will have to create your own. And lastly, the export. Export can be done to Excel. So there are some activities that can actually help you do this. Using the export extraction results, all the validated extracted data can be converted into a data set, and that can be written into an Excel file. So this is how it works in the classic activities. Any questions so far before I go to the modern? Okay, I see some questions in the chat. I think we will be addressing them towards the end. Okay, let me take you to the modern activities. Now, in the modern one, what is the dependency that we are going to use? It's this one. So we don't use the intelligent OCR or the machine learning thing that I showed you earlier. For the modern activities, you can use this one, the UiPath.document understanding activities. Once you install this, this will give you a set of activities that look similar to this. So as you can see, the activities that you have to use is pretty much less. You have the classify document, and you have the extract document data, and you have the validation options. But have the attended version for this one. And we also don't have digitize. We don't have taxonomy related things. So all you have to do is once you get a document, the very first step would be classify document. And you don't need to do a lot of things here. Just there are a few options. You can use the predefined projects. Predefined means out of the box. Or if you have any projects created in your cloud, in the modern or the document understanding service, those things will show in that drop down. So if you go here, and if I create any project using this one, you can use whether you are going to use the classic version or the modern version where you can access the active learning capabilities. And if you create this project here, let's say demo, sorry, these projects will get listed over here. You can see that demo is showing. So if you have a project already created, you can use that one. If you want to use your predefined or the out-of-the-box capabilities, you can use predefined. And in this classifier, you can select which classification methods you are going to use. So for classification, you have two options. One is the generative classifier, the other one is the machine learning classification. If you select this one, this will support all the out-of-the-box document types, everything that you saw earlier. But if you use the generative classifier, you can write your own prompts for your different documents. So if I just click on this, here you can specify what kind of documents you are processing and just write a very simple explanation about what this document type is. And you can have many more like that. And when you're writing prompts, just remember to keep it very simple, straightforward. Don't write very lengthy sentences. If you want to write multiple sentences, keep it very short and straightforward so that it can understand easily what you're trying to explain. Okay. So this is the classification, and out of this one, so basically you can provide a document path. Let me try to find a path for an existing document. Let's say, yeah, this one. You can give a document path, and you can see there's a difference. It's not just the file path. This expects a different data type, which is iResource, and that's why you get this in front. This will convert your file path to that data type. And the output of this would be something called document data. Classification, result. And this information you can directly pass to your document data extraction, the extract document data. This will be your next step. Just see how most of those steps are getting eliminated. So you might wonder, where is the digitizing happening? It actually happens here. And if you wonder, if I don't want to use classification, where does the digitizing take? It will happen here. So both of these activities will do it internally on its own, so you don't need to do anything. And if you do the classification, you can pass that same output that you got from the classified document thing to this extract document data, because this guy will need to know what kind of document you are referring to. And in this data type, you will have all the information about your taxonomies, the document object model, the document text. All this information is inside this. You can access that through the properties. So if you just click on, you can use this dot, and you can see the document metadata, the file details, file names. There are a lot of information that you can access, even the sub documents. So if I go to document metadata, inside this, you can see few more information like the split confidence text and the language. All that information is already available. There are so many things that you can explore. So it's just one variable that has everything. And same as the classification, in the extraction part, you can say which extraction model you're going to use. Right now, I don't have a project defined, so it's just the one that I just created. But if you go to predefined, in this one, you can select the different extractors. Yeah, so here again, you have the generative extractor, and you also have all those out of the box models that we were looking at. Everything is included here. Just select which one you are going to use. And you don't need to map any fields or do anything like that, because if you choose invoices, just give it a couple of seconds to update. Okay, yeah. So if you choose invoices, you can see it already know what fields to extract. So you don't need to do any mappings or anything like that as you used to do in your classic version. So the effort here is much less to build a simple workflow. And where is this information? How can you access this? It's coming as a part of your output of this. So if I create another variable, document data, now let me just add a message box here, just to show you how this works. Where is my message box? Okay, yeah. So if I look at the extracted document data, and with this dot, and if I go to data, just look at this. All these are the fields that we have. You can access any of these fields. And if I just go to discount, in that one you can get the confidence, you can get the OCR confidence, you can also get the value. Everything is here. So that's how you can access each and every field for your cross validation. So it's easier. You don't need to do anything extra. And if you want to convert this to a data table, I think as I remember, it's under document metadata. Yes, result as data tables. So this will convert your entire extracted information to a data table so that you can easily write it into a Excel. So this is how the modern activity works. And just one last thing. In this extraction, in predefined, you also have this generative extractor. And just like in the classification, you can write your own prompt. So in this one, if you use the generative extractor, you can specify the field names depending on your document type that you want to process, and the prompt, what basically explaining what this is. So for example, let's say invoice number. You can write a simple prompt, extract within double quotes, extract the invoice number, something like this. You need to find the best prompt. So it's sometimes trial and error. So depending on your document type, prompting is something that you need to work on. So it's a little bit of prompt engineering. Just try to find the best prompt that can extract the information accurately, depending on the documents and the complexity of the document. But if you have the proper prompt, this is very easy. So just give it a try. So yeah, so all these capabilities are there in document understanding, um, and the next thing I this is pretty much the last topic. So the next thing
Yeah.
I wanted to share is, yeah,
Hi, Lahiro.
yes,
So actually, it's 9:41 p.m. We have already
okay,
lost 10 minutes of time. So I'm
uh-huh.
just saying that we
Yeah,
still
so thank you.
go for Menti and Q&A session as well.
Yes, yeah, I will just only take like 2 minutes. It's
Fine,
not
sure,
much.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
please.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the last thing to remember is once you have all this information, um, once you have designed this flow like this, um, always test it properly with the different document types and different methods. Have your models trained and evaluated using these capabilities. And especially with active learning, you can easily evaluate your model because it gives you that dashboard and that tells you how accurate and how good your model is. And yeah, once you have that clearance, you can deploy this to production just like any other process. And yeah, so just the main thing is if you're using machine learning, keep monitoring that and try to keep improving, because sometimes you can come across scenarios where it is it it is not trained to handle those kind of things. So just you need to keep an eye on those things and fine tune it time to time. And that can make sure that your solution works better and it improves over time. So that's it. But there are a lot more to talk about. With the time limit, we can only do this one. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask. And yeah, thank you. Over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lahiru, for your wonderful session. It's really very insightful. So yeah, even like we have so many questions in the chat, and our moderators are trying to help their level best by giving the responses. And now it's a time to start the Menti quiz questions. I hope everyone is eagerly waiting for the Menti questions. So I have just pasted the link in the chat, everyone. So please try to open that link. You can try www.menti.com and you can use the code to join 51797169. Okay, so the first question, which of the following tasks can be accomplished using UiPath AI Center?
Um,
Great.
Raghava, if
That is,
you're sharing your screen, it's not visible.
yeah, I'm sharing it. Sorry. Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Great. Received so far 24 responses. I think still people are joining the Menti. Total 52 plus participants, but still only 26 has joined. Okay, great. So let's move to the next question. So in UiPath AI Center, what is the purpose of the data manager? So fastest fingers first. Okay. Yes, that's the right answer of the majority. Let's move to the next question. So what does the model training stage in the UiPath AI Center pipeline involve?
I think everybody answered this question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a correct answer. Fine-tuning machine learning models with label data. So does during the model development stage, what is the primary goal of deploying an AI model? Strange getting multiple answers for these questions. Let's look into the answer. Oh, only six correct answers, making predictions on new data. Okay, great. Let's move to the next question. How does UiPath Action Center handle escalations of unresolved actions? Okay. Okay. Still getting the responses. 29. Okay, so answer for this question is yes. Majority of them is correct. It sends a notification to the robot owner. Yeah. So last question, I think. So what is the purpose of the resolution score in UiPath Action Center? Okay. So 30 responses so far. So answer for this question, yeah, it assigns a score to the resolution provided by a human worker. Okay, that's great. I think it is the last one. Yeah. I'm so sorry, everyone. Today also we don't have the leaderboard. So sorry for that. So can you please, moderators, can you please everyone as a presenter so that they can turn on their cameras to take a group picture?
Sure.
And moderators, everyone, please turn on your camera, please. So sorry, whoever not able to join the Menti. Um, okay. Everyone, can you please requesting you all to turn on your cameras for a group picture, and please write a feedback and please tag us all, tag all of us in LinkedIn uh, about your feedback, that how what we have learned so far from last 3 days, by posting your valuable comments in the LinkedIn and all social media, please. Okay, so far, thank you, Arun, Nazir, Praharsha, Priyanshu, Arvind, Fanikumar, Pallavi, Yogita. Great. So let me take a picture. Just a second. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for turning on your cameras. So now let's have some Q&A session. So Lahiru, can you please uh, go to the chat? So many people have asked the questions. It would be great, you can respond to the questions maybe like maybe based on the time permits.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the question. There's a lot here. Um,
Maybe you can go to the chart and please bit little bit scroll up.
okay, so there is someone asking what is the use of confidence option and at configure expression in classification extraction scope. Um, okay, so basically this confidence option in configuration is for you can specify the minimum the confidence level that you would like to expect, and this kind of relates to this there is a new option called generative validation. So it can use some AI capabilities in the background to automatically validate some of your information using these confidence levels, etc. So this is something that you can use um, to perform those tasks. Let me check for other questions. I'm not looking at the ones that has replies, but let me know if I'm missing anything. Um,
So there is
okay,
a question in Q&A as well, Q&A section
yeah,
as well. Please check that too.
okay. And I was just looking at a question. So there is one question. Minimum templates required to train one template is 5 to 10, but sometimes depending on the average score, we may need to train more than 10. Yes, that is true. Maybe 5 is not enough. I would recommend something around between 10 to 20 minimum. But if you have like a lot of line items and different, if the document layout itself is complicated, you may need more. But for a simple one, I think 10, 20 would suffice. Let me check the Q&A section. Um, as compared to classic DU project with modern DU projects, taxonomy, digitization, classification, etc. Steps are combined in first component. Is the understanding correct? Yes, that's how it works. So all those taxonomy, digitizing, all those things are within the activity itself, whether you use classification or not, as I explained. These things will happen automatically, and once you have the extracted data, you can use that data variable itself to do other cross validations or do whatever you have to do depending on your use case. Um, so if you are saying the modern projects don't support splitting, does that mean we could not process a single PDF? Um, Well, I think you can do something like this. If the modern projects still do not support the splitting, it will come in the future, but for the time being, it does not. In that case, you can have a couple of approaches. Maybe you can combine this modern with the classic one. Use the old classification and do the splitting. Save those split files and then use the modern capabilities to extract the data. That could also be an approach that you can take.
Yeah, I think we are
Yeah.
good, Lahiru. Yeah,
Yes.
so let's conclude the session. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session, day three. That we are good with mastering the UiPath document understanding framework. Thank you so much, Lahiru and Monica, for your valuable time in taking the session and delivering up this event. And let's join the session tomorrow, day 4, guys. So please do register and do RSVP for tomorrow's day 4 session. And yeah, please write again your valuable feedback in all social media, and please tag Hyderabad UiPath community and the speakers and the moderators. Um, yeah, so signing off. Thank you all. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Good night.
Ledru, and thank you, Monica, for your wonderful session. Thanks, everyone.